Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Kari and today I will talk about the best and worst books that I read in 2020. I have to clarify that these books are not new releases of this year because I'm always late to the party. I never read new releases, like it would be a miracle for me to read a new release. I decided after a lot of thought, because it's very difficult for me to choose, that I would do a top 10. So it's 5 best books and 5 worst books. They are not ranked though, they are just in the order in which I read them, starting in January and finishing in December. First, the best books. I'm really excited to talk about this because all of them surprised me in a different way. And the first one is Anne of Green Gables. I'm a fan of Anne with an E, the show, and I watched it before I read any of the books. At first I didn't want to read them because I thought the series was amazing and I loved it. I felt like I didn't need anything more, but then I read the first book and I was blown away. Actually, it is a very beautiful story that I recommend to everyone. The story was so great and rich and full of emotion and wonderful characters that it grew to be a series. I haven't read all of the series, I just have read the first 2 books, but I think it's great that it keeps on inspiring people to this day. If you haven't heard about the story, this is about an orphan girl named Anne, and she is adopted by this couple of siblings by mistake. So she goes and they actually wanted a boy to help with the farm, but she arrives to the town and starts changing the life of these 2 siblings and a lot of more people in the town because she is very witty and smart and sentimental. She brings so much joy to everyone that knows her, and I love that about her. I really recommend you to read this book. Even if you have watched the TV show, this is a very different way to consume this story that I think it's very valuable and great for everybody. The next book, I don't think that I have words to describe how much it impacted me. It was like opening my eyes to this story that I thought I knew since I was a kid because I watched the movies, but reading the books, reading this last book was a magical experience beyond any other. I just can't describe it. And this is Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows. I read this book for the first time this year. Like, my story with the Harry Potter books is quite weird. I will tell you in another video more about that, but just so you know, this was the first time that I read the series. And I thought I knew everything about Harry Potter with the movies and with videos about facts that I used to watch, but now I completely fell in love with it more. I don't know if that's possible, but I think it is because that's the best way to describe it. I was very happy to have lived all those adventures with Harry. I understood him more than what I got from the movies, and I loved him. Like, he was my favorite character after finishing Deathly Hallows. His development was amazing. I loved the way that things turned out at the end. Everything was so perfect and well executed, in my opinion. I truly loved this book and the conclusion to the story. I know there has been some controversy about what J.K. Rowling had said, so I'm not sure I want to say, like, if you haven't read Harry Potter, because I don't agree with her, but also Harry Potter has been a great part of my life that I can't just erase it. So I really love Harry Potter, and yeah, it's one of my favorite books of this year. The next one is also from a series, but it's not the conclusion. You can actually read this as the first book, but I don't recommend that. I recommend you start in publication order, and this is from the Chronicles of Narnia, and the book I'm talking about is The Magician's Nephew. I think this was my favorite from the series, but it's closely followed by The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, which is, in my opinion, the first you have to read if you're getting into the series. The Magician's Nephew tells the origin story of Narnia, and I think if you read it after a lot of the other books in the series, you get a better feeling of it. Like, you get to understand many things. You also see the references of the things that you already know. from the previous books. I think the role of the characters is very well established, like who's the villain, who is the good guy, who's the hero, who's the comic relief, and all of that is very well executed. I truly love the story, and while I was reading it, I was only thinking that I want a TV or movie adaptation of this book. It will be magical. I watched the movies of the Chronicles of Narnia after reading the books, and all the time I was thinking, why not The Magician's Nephew? This has so much potential. If you haven't read the Chronicles of Narnia, I think you should do it. And my favorites are obviously The Magician's Nephew, because it's the one on this list, but also The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, which is amazing. The next book is an adult mystery, unlike any of the others, because they were all middle grade, and it is one that I wanted to read for years. Actual years. I've known about this book since it came out, and I wanted to read it, but actually I wasn't ready. Like, I wouldn't have appreciated the story the way that I did right now. This was the year that I had to read it, and I did it with my friend. It was an amazing experience because we both love to read, and also this book has a TV adaptation, so we watched also the TV adaptation, which is amazing. I recommend it a lot, like both the book and the adaptation. So me and my friend were very excited. I loved that experience of reading with her. Every time that I see this book, I remember that experience. So apart from the actual story of the book, I have those memories attached to it. So it's pretty amazing. I just noticed that I didn't say the name because I got really excited. But the book is The Truth About the Harry Quebert Affair. This book is a mystery, and it is told in different timelines. We got the present, where Marcus, our protagonist, is going to visit an old teacher of his that he had a close friendship with, and we also get to see the life of his teacher. His name is Harry Quebert. And in this small town where Harry Quebert lives, a 15-year-old girl went missing a lot of years ago. And then in the present day, they find her body buried in the backyard of Harry Quebert's house. That's the premise of this book. It is a very well written mystery, but I feel this is not only about the mystery, it's more about the characters and how they feel, how they react to things, how they live, and the interactions with each other. At first, I didn't like Marcus as a protagonist. I felt like I needed to know more about Harry or about Nola, which is the 15-year-old girl. Those two characters were very interesting to me, but at the end I loved Marcus as well. This is also a book about writers, because the protagonist Marcus is a writer, Harry Quebert is a writer, and I love reading about that lifestyle. It's always fascinating to me. This book is brilliant in how it gives you so many points of view of the same story, and you want to know what is going on. Like, it feels like you have all these points all around you and you don't know how they fit together, but at the end they fit perfectly. There's no loose end. I felt everything was pretty well done and well thought. And talking about the writer, I think this is his masterpiece. I find it really amusing to see how he created all of this story. If you are planning to read something about this author, I think you should start with The Harry Quebert Affair. And the last of my favorites is a fantasy classic that I always wanted to read too. This is Peter Pan. I don't know why, I've always been fascinated by this story. Every time that I've heard about the book, that someone mentioned it, that I saw it on a store, I felt drawn to it. I felt like I needed to read it, and yeah, I needed to read it because it changed my perspective on the story. The story is so classic that I think everyone knows it, and it is about Peter Pan, the boy who never grows up, and about the darlings Wendy, Michael, and John. They meet Peter Pan and he takes them in this magical adventure to the island Neverland. They meet the Lost Boys, some Indians, and they fight against the pirates. I think the story is timeless and it just feels so magical to me. Also, the writing style is amazing. It's one of the best writing styles that I ever read, and it surprised me a lot how the writer created all of these characters and all of this story and all the adventures, because they represent so much more than what you are reading. All the stories are, I think, a reflection on something more spiritual about life and something more meaningful. that I loved. I completely love all of that. The ending of the book actually made me cry, and I don't know how to explain why. I just felt so many emotions, and I felt kind of happy and excited and relieved, but at the same time, I feel like I was saying goodbye to Peter. I don't want to give any spoilers, but the ending is so wonderful and beautiful and poetic. I truly, truly loved it, and it made me cry. If you have watched any of the adaptations of this story, I think the book is the best way to consume this story, because I've watched quite a lot of Peter Pan adaptations, and yeah, my favorite is the book. I think it's brilliant and everyone should read it. And now we are leaving the beautiful land of great books, amazing books, because now we are going to talk about the worst books that I read in this year. I have to clarify that these are not like the worst books ever. Maybe some of them are quite beloved books for many fans of the sagas that I will talk about, but for me they were just disappointing or they were boring. I think the worst thing that I can experience while reading a book is to get bored with the story, like to not care about what's going on, because then what's the point of reading that book? Like, there's no point. And these books were like that. Some of them had other bad aspects that I will talk about, but the majority of them, it was because they were very disappointing. The first of my worst books of the year is part of the Mortal Instruments series, and it is City of Lost Souls. In my opinion, the first trilogy of the Mortal Instruments was great, brilliant, I loved it. And the second trilogy was just there. Like, it exists, but I find that it doesn't have a lot of things that are worth reading, I guess in my opinion only, because I know a lot of people love it, so I apologize, no offense to you, but I just didn't like it. And City of Fallen Angels was awful, nothing happened, but I read that last year, and this year I was hopeful to find that City of Lost Souls was better because it is near the end, so you will think that it'll be full of action and interesting moments, but no. I won't talk about the plot of this book because it's the fifth one in the series, so spoilers, and also because I don't remember anything. I just remember disappointment and that I got bored. City of Heavenly Fire was actually better. It was great. It had many emotional moments that I loved, but City of Lost Souls, no. I'm sorry, Cassandra Clare fans, please don't kill me, but no. The next book is a more recent read, so I do remember why I didn't like it, and this is Library of Souls, which is part of the Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children series. This was supposed to be a trilogy, so this was supposed to be the last book because it's the third one, and I was so disappointed by this ending. What makes me mad is that a lot of people said this was a beautiful ending or a perfect ending, and I don't see it. Why was this perfect? Or I felt like it didn't make any sense, and the great things that happened or the positive things about the ending were out of nowhere. I loved the first book, and the second book was just okay. I didn't love it, didn't hate it. It had some great moments, some that were just meh, but this third book was overall just meh for me, and the ending was plain bad. I kind of get a little mad just to remember it because I was so excited to read this series. I even bought the trilogy from Amazon in the middle of the pandemic, and just to read this third book and feel like it wasn't worth it. I decided not to continue with the series for the same reason, so and I feel bad because the writing style and the concept of the story is great, and I loved the first book, so I feel kind of bad. But no, this ending was horrible, the whole book was boring, and no, it was not for me. The next book is also a disappointment, but this is the one that I feel is the worst of all. I feel the book cheated on me. I was so invested in the story, and the book was giving me all that I wanted. It was brilliant, it was amazing, and then everything started falling apart. The characters weren't that bad. There were some aspects that I didn't like. Also, I can talk about it a lot because of spoilers, but what it was most disappointing and annoying was the plot. It started making no sense, and being ridiculous. You know that there are some moments in children's books that are kind of silly, but they are part of the charm of the story and they are great for kids. Well, those moments in this book that were supposed to be silly but cute were just ridiculous and crazy and not realistic at all, even though it is fantasy. The premise of these books is actually great. It is about two twin siblings, Connor and Alex, who get into the fairy tales that they have been reading and loving their whole lives. The first book was okay, the second book was perfect, almost a masterpiece. I loved it. So getting into the third book and getting that excitement and actually reading some great stuff at the beginning of the book made the second half of the book even worse, or the experience of reading even worse. Chris Colfer is the writer, and I love you, Chris Colfer. But it was so bad. I don't know why and I don't know how. I checked the Goodreads reviews for this book, and some are like that this is the best thing ever, and some think more like me. I also checked the reviews for the rest of the series in case it got better, but I saw that it wasn't the case. A lot of the reviews talked about the same problems that I found on this third book, so yeah, it's a big no. I was so disappointed. I think this is the one that makes me so mad and so sad that I didn't like, but that's the truth. One of the worst books of my reading year. The next one, I actually talk about it in my wrap up. If you want to see it, will be here in the screen, and this is Orphaned Island. This one was a disappointment because it had a great premise and I fell for it. I thought it was gonna be a mystery, and it ended up being an allegory of life. A beautiful allegory of life, but it wasn't for me. I feel this is the best example when a book is not for you, but it is wonderful for others, because I saw some of the Goodreads reviews for it and there were some beautiful thoughts about this book. And I get it. I get why some people loved it, but I just couldn't connect with it. I hated the main character. She was awful. The premise of this book is that there are kids living on an island without adults, and they don't know why they're there. They don't know anything. They just have certain roles, but what they know is that once a year a boat comes to the shore and takes the eldest of them and leaves a new young child. At the beginning of the story, the protagonist, Jeannie, is the new eldest and she has to take care of the young child whose name is S, and Jeannie doesn't like it. Jeannie feels like she is not good at parenting. I don't know what it's called in the book. There's a certain name for it, but it's just like parenting. She doesn't like it, and she also doesn't want to go because in 1 year when the boat comes, she is the eldest, so she has to leave the island. And that fear of the unknown is the thing that she has to work out during the whole book. I think the reflection of this book makes about life is great, but it wasn't for me. I was expecting a mystery. I was expecting them to kind of get ready to fight for their freedom and find out what's beyond the island and what is going on, why they're there alone. But no, it's only an allegory of life. Like, you have to learn to do things and pass them to your children and then just leave the island. Like, it's all the metaphorical island that is life. I got really mad because I didn't get any answers about what was going on in the island, and I know that's the point of the book, but I just wanted answers. I needed answers. And the last one is a retelling of Alice in Wonderland, and it is called Splintered, which is part of a trilogy. I was planning to read the whole trilogy, but this book was just awful. I consider myself sort of a romantic person, but I don't consume a lot of media that is focused on the romance. I like the romance of the things that I watch and the books that I read, but it's not the main thing of the plot. And here we got the great opportunity to explore Wonderland, this time with a descendant of Alice Liddell, which was the inspiration for Alice in the books. So the protagonist, Alyssa, has a family curse. Apparently all the women in her family, since Alice Liddell had this curse, and she has to go to Wonderland to fix what Alice did wrong in order to break this Curse. And that was a great premise. I thought I would like it, but I didn't. And the main reason why I didn't was the romance. This book was just so heavy on the romance, and it wasn't a good romance. It had a love triangle, but both of the guys weren't as great as the protagonist thought they were. Another problem I had was the protagonist herself. She was so dumb. I didn't get her personality. I didn't like her. She did nothing for me, and the romance did nothing for me. Overall, the setting that the writer gave to Wonderland wasn't for me. I didn't like it. So this was not a good book. I don't recommend it. I haven't heard that many people love it, but some of the reviews that I've seen are quite positive. But no, for me, this was just a plain bad fantasy book because it was more of a romance disguised as a fantasy. Well, those were all the books that I wanted to talk about today. My best reads of the year and my worst reads of the year. Please share with me your best and worst books of the year in the comments. And if you have some opinions about my choices, please let's discuss in the comments as well. Also, I will leave all of my social media in the description below in case you want to be friends with me. And give this video a like if you enjoyed it, share it with all of your friends, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel for more content about books, movies, and TV shows every week. See you next time!